deliver on my promise from yesterday. I do have some thoughts about this week, and I have a few comments that I think that will be helpful in setting you up for success as we move into the final stages of the course. But I regret to say that I haven't gotten a chance to grade the discussion forum. We had an event on campus today, and I've had some unexpected media interviews that have put me behind, and then I'm supposed to be out of the office on work, an all-day work thing tomorrow. So I'm not entirely sure when I'm going to get to those. But I did want to sort of point out a few things about where we are in terms of the larger course, right? So really what we're going to start doing now is focusing on the last two deliverables for the course, which are the final exam and the final paper. I want to point out that you are graduate students. This isn't an undergraduate course. The way the course is structured, because of the way Canvas works, I kind of get frustrated because it makes it feel like an undergraduate course, right? Really rigid due dates and checklists and so on and so forth. But I wanted to point out that, you are graduate students. So yes, the paper is due on the 4th. If you need a little bit of extra time, I would really appreciate it if you reached out to me and talked to me a little bit about why and where you're at. I would like you to set an alternative deadline for yourself when I can expect the paper. And I'd like to do that in conversation because, as you can imagine, I have a lot going on these last 2 weeks of class. And I do need to manage it to make sure you get your feedback. But I'm more than happy to give you a little bit more time to complete the paper, okay? So if you're panicking a little bit, don't set that aside, right? And that's really important. What I would also point out is the final exam is next week. I will actually be building out the questions for the final exam toward the end of this week. You will get them on Friday or over the weekend. You will have them in advance. And what I will be doing is circulating some thoughts about that over the course of the following days, right? So it really is going to be an opportunity for you to engage with some things. For the paper and the final exam, I really want to stress the fact that you're graduate students. These are open-ended opportunities for you to offer your own analytical arguments, right? These are not undergraduate courses. You are already advanced academics. You already have the skill set to do your own analysis. Both of these are meant to give you the opportunity to do that. Did have a few questions about the final paper, right? The written assignment for this week that I did want to address, and namely about tone and formatting. I'm not necessarily interested in you recreating the aesthetic and organization of an actual national security strategy. If you would like to do that, I think that might be fun. Go ahead and do that. But really, I think it's probably better thought of as an analytical piece where an academic like yourself is reflecting on the needs of U.S. national security and what the new national security strategy ought to be, right? For many of you, that'll be an edit or an amendment to the one that exists. Maybe it's a radical reimagining. Maybe it's a defense of the one we have, right? But in any sense, I'm looking for you to use the content from the course to explain what a sound U.S. national security strategy looks like and how we get there politically. Another question was about, I do make mention of procurement and spending and legislation. I'm not looking for necessarily like a fine tune, like I don't need 20 pages where you nickel and dime and analyze the next defense appropriation. What I'm really looking for is that something like what we saw in that first podcast all the way back in week 1 about, does national security and defense spending line up generally? And why, right? If it doesn't, how do we make them line up politically? Hopefully at this point, you've started to see the transition in the course where we started off with what national security strategies look like. Then we've gone through their history, their progression, what shapes them, understanding that what shapes them is not always the threat environment, its own domestic politics and institutional processes, and then thinking about whether the two line up. Okay, so that's what I'm really looking for you to do here. What's really important here is the idea here is for us to think about that, and I really tried to design the discussion forum at this point as an opportunity for you to reflect on that, right? To think about what's a real threat to national security, and what makes it different than something that's just bad or nefarious about the international system that we might be uneasy about, right? So this is really where I want your thoughts to be over the course of this week. I'm looking forward to hearing it. I will get your feedback on your other assignments very quickly, but do please reach out if you have any issues. Other than that, things are looking great. Really looking forward to hearing from you all over the course of the term.